are right now at our panel discussion on assessing the sectors in critical infrastructure where AI, ML have caused a disruption. Well, this panel will discuss how several sectors are utilizing artificial intelligence and other technologies to enhance well-being, service delivery, and corporate governance, in addition to widening the preventive and precautionary measures for the safety of its citizens. The panel discussion will cover AI will simplify data integrity, benefits for the critical infrastructure functions, the transformational change and roadmap to the successful technology adoption during COVID-19, AI analytics in the surveillance industry, the future of autonomous industry, critical infrastructure protection, AI solving urban challenges, how can we champion digital inclusion to reach a variety of customer segments, what are the sectors in government that AI will deeply impact, and AI and big data, are they disrupting public transport? Well, ladies and gentlemen, for this topic, we're joined by eminent panelists. First up, Dr. Hazem Shatila, the Data Science and Artificial Intelligence Advisor to the Assistant of Prime Minister Egypt, joining us. Well, Dr. Hazem has more than 20 years of experience in the artificial intelligence field, cognitive radio, and telecom industry. Thank you so much, Dr. Hazem, for joining us today. Pleasure having you. Also joining on the stage and screen is going to be Engineer Mohammed Hamed, the CTO of Ceramico Platinum Group, Egypt, joining us. Well, Mohammed Hamed has an experience of over 23 years in the information technology executive management positions, and he's somebody who also possesses professional experience in Microsoft systems and applications and Oracle applications. Thank you so much, Engineer Mohammed Hamed, for joining us today live.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Pleasure. Also joining is Engineer Wissam Al-Adani, the Group Chief Information Officer, Gor Auto Group, Egypt, joining us. Well, Engineer Wissam has a long experience in performing large-scale international M&A and IT due diligence, as well as building IT strategy across different countries and cultures. Thank you so much, Engineer Wissam, for joining us today live.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
Pleasure, pleasure. Also, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by Joe Morgan, the Segment Development Manager, Critical Infrastructure Americas, Access Communications, United States. Well, Joe is the Segment Development Manager for the Critical Infrastructure at Access Communications, Inc., and has more than 32 years of experience building market share in the critical infrastructure industry. Thank you so much, Joe, for joining us today.
Thank you, my pleasure.
And ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to introduce you to the moderator of this session. We've got Addition, the Regional Director, VP, Technology Innovation, Prudential Corporation Insurance, Asia Computer Society, joining us. Well, Andy is a leading AI pioneer and a global visionary with over 3 decades of innovation experience in a range of industries, including insurance, finance, health, transportation, education, and government. Thank you so much, Andy, for joining us live today.
My pleasure.
Ladies and gentlemen, with this, we present to you our eminent panel on your stage and screen. If you may have any questions, please post it up in the Q&A section. We will pass it to our moderator at the end of the session if time allows. With this, Andy, the floor is all yours. The screen's all yours, as they say in the virtual space. Please take it forward.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Bhavana, and welcome to our panel discussion. Today, we have an amazing line of elite panel members with very diverse backgrounds in government, banking, ceramics, automobile, and critical infrastructure to share their insights. Before I invite our panel members to speak, let me provide a quick backdrop of our discussion. The COVID-19 pandemic has forever changed the business landscape, and particularly consumer behaviors. Digital transformation is no longer a luxury, but a necessity for survival of businesses in any sector. Consumers are increasingly shifting to digital because of the convenience it brings. Companies are all rushing to digitalize themselves and embark on digital transformation projects because of efficiencies and cost savings. AI, machine learning, and data analytics all play very important roles in digital transformation efforts to help better understand customer needs as well as improve customer experience. It will be very interesting to hear from our panel of speakers what are their particular digital priorities and how AI and machine learning is currently disrupting their particular sector. So to start, may I invite Dr. Hazem Shatila to share his view on this. Hazem.
Andy, how are you doing?
Hey.
It's nice to be here. I hope you can hear me. So,
loud and clear.
About the sectors that really being disrupted by artificial intelligence and machine learning. Part of our job is working at the government sector. We have different sectors being affected currently. But it's not just the sectors, it's the mindset has been changed into more of data-driven kind of government where decisions is being taken based on the data analytics and all this AI and machine learning models. Of course, they're not yet mature enough. So a bit of maturity is needed, especially from the employees side. The disruptive has been there in agriculture, in the healthcare systems, and even in education. We started doing sort of more of analytics on predicting different economical indicators, which can help in the strategic decision made by the people in the government. So the disruption is mainly in that part. In agriculture, we're working on smart agriculture where we're using IoT with AI. As you know, that artificial intelligence and IoT, they bond together very well. So we do some kind of modeling where we can actually predict the amount of water that is needed for planting different crops. We can even predict the type of diseases that actually can be affected by the crop during seasonal times. In finance, yes, we did some sort of lots of economic indicators predicting the GDP and the inflation, for example. We're working on that. We're still in the maturity level because of the data availability and the data quality. So we're working on that hard. Preparation of a data platform. As you know, that you need a data platform where all the data is injected from the different sectors. Only then you can actually come up with really great models, especially the data quality in the government. Just not in the government, in all the multinational organizations. We have a problem in the data integrity and the data quality, which we're working on that as well. But it's moving on, and I think there will be great use cases in the coming future. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's really exciting, hearing all those different projects going on in the government sector. Next, maybe I'll invite Engineer Mohammed Hamed from Ceramic Platino to share his views on how things are in terms of AI and machine learning disrupting his sector.
Yes. Thank you for great introduction. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you all today at the amazing World AI Show, Egypt. We are at manufacture. A lot of unsolved incidents can lead to costly outage, impact client experience and revenue. AI was enabled to the IT and the engineering department to predict and rebuild the detect issue in near real time. AI also help distance what action to take automatically and the resolution activity soon. Back to you, Andy. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Next, may I invite Engineer Wissam, from Gabor Auto Group to share his view on how things are in terms of AI disrupting his sector.
Sure. Thank you, Andy. Okay, first, as you may know, the pandemic period was really tough on all industries, and automotive was one of those who was impacted heavily. In GBO, we were lucky enough to be prepared earlier, as we decided to work on a complete digital transformation since 2015. And we have built a new digital strategy that matches our business plans. However, pandemic pushed us to speed up the process of the transformation, and change the priorities of the implementations and move faster toward better customer experience and introducing new digital experience within the industry itself. So the main priorities during this transformation period was first transforming the business being more agile and flexible to adapt with the market changes. The second part is providing our customer with a special experience And finally, reduce our services cost via having more control on our overheads. So in order to achieve these points, we have to rely more on AI and machine learning in different areas. As we work in two different sectors within GB Auto, so we have the automotive and automotive related industry, and we have another group that works for financing business as well. So we have to provide two different solutions for both while satisfying the main business objectives and customer experience that we are aiming. For example, we started last year by implementing RPA, robotic process automation, to automate many of our redundant operations, which helped us reducing overheads, provide accurate data, and speeding up the process time. We have also introduced WhatsApp chatbots based on AI intelligence to answer customer inquiries online, and it's already live for our customer. In addition, we have provided our management with a business intelligence dashboards with an AI engines that interact with the data in real time to provide a detailed analytics and forecast the expected future behavior as well. Meanwhile, in the financing business, which is a little bit different than automotive, we own a couple of companies that provide car loan and microfinancing for the customers. So we are in the process of using AI algorithms to analyze customer profiles and take decisions regarding their ability to pay back debts and what's the ideal loan size that fits their ability or their income actually. Finally, we are considering to use facial recognition as part of our surveillance system, either to be used for attendance, the employee attendance, as well as predicting any unallowed access for our facilities. That's it in a high level discussion.
Thank you so much. Really exciting, a lot of interesting things going on. And particularly to hear that your company have been embarking digital transformation since 2015 is really an early pioneer. You know, people say that digital transformation has been accelerated by COVID-19 by 5 to 7 years because of COVID. What is your estimation in your industry or your particular company?
Actually, it's completely different. It's very tough to expect something like this because today we're talking about COVID-19. Actually, before it ends, people start to discuss different diseases and different actions. So things have completely changed, either from the supply chain or the operation itself. Today, we are having opportunities to sell and the customers are looking for the product, but we have shortage in supply because of the supplies that come in from China, from Europe, and plenty of things. So what we believe that the COVID-19, I wouldn't say that it's over, but people got adapted to a way or another with it, having the new norm. So I think 2021 is showing a better perspective, or we see it in a better way, having the business back again. Things are just getting better. In parallel, for the digital transformation, I see that it's an ongoing process. It's never-ending process. So you start up first by digitizing your operation, which is completely different than digital transformation, and people need to know the difference between digitizing the business and digital transformation. Now we're moving to digital transformation by providing new or capitalizing on our digital platforms and data by providing new services, new products, using the digital platforms that we are currently having. This is the whole idea about. So I think the coming 5 years definitely will make a severe change or a high change for the industry itself, as well as customer experience.
Thank you so much. Yes, some amazing how fast technology has been progressing over the past year. I'm sure it's going to be progressing a lot faster in the coming years. Next, may I invite Joe Morgan from Access Communication to share his views on where things are heading with AI machine learning. Joe?
Right. Yes. Thank you, Andy. So, I approach this from a manufacturing perspective. We make cameras, but these cameras have been transferred into what we call sensors now. So the typical security application, intrusion protection, that we utilize surveillance and analytics and even AI analytics is profoundly shifting to a couple different areas. So this conversation is going to focus on really more of the process security, which is operational efficiency and so forth, as we see an emerging market. Now, this plays into the COVID question quite well. So in a drilling operations out in West Texas with a staff of 30 that are involved in 24/7 monitoring and drilling, with COVID, these companies had to back off these individuals. So they had to find some means of still monitoring processes in these drilling operations. So with that, we actually saw an acceleration of solutions involving analytics and AI in these areas to take the place, if you will, of these absent workers. And this was done quite quickly. And it was done because of the technology, the solar panels in the remote areas, the connectivity. All these processes have come together in the last 2 or 3 years to reduce the cost. So the energy companies that once frowned upon it, adapting this technology, were kind of forced into it. And they were happy to see that the price structure had reduced so much to the tipping point where they made fundamental decisions to move forward with innovation and AI implementations of things like that. So we're excited of this foundation in the energy sector of oil and gas as a significant growth area, as they've adapted, accepted, and now they're implementing it at the basic level, some of the first steps in that ladder for complete automation.
Thank you so much, Joe. It's great to hear that you think that in certain areas AI machine learning has come to a tipping point where decisions are a lot easier to be made in terms of technology adoption. So that's very interesting. Maybe I could share a bit as well. So I myself, I work at Prudential Corp Asia. It's an insurance and financial services company. We're based in Asia and Africa. Not yet in Egypt yet. For us, our priorities have been to fully digitalize everything we do, and we do it through our all-in-one AI digital ecosystem app. We call it Pulse by Prudential. That helps customers stay healthy and wealthy. So we launched this app early last year, and it has been a quite success. Because people are really concerned about staying healthy during the pandemic. It's now been downloaded over 20 million times, and it's available in 16 countries in Asia, Africa, and 11 different local languages. It has features, and we use AI machine learning everywhere. So it has features like health check with digital twin, AI doctor for symptom checking, and if you're sick, teleconsultation with a human doctor at the convenience of your own home. So you can see a doctor instantly through your smartphone. We have similar equivalent features on the wealth side, and like AI for financial planning, AI nudges to encourage savings. AI machine learning are used everywhere from improving customer experience to making engagement more personal or personalized. For backend services, we have automated underwriting, fraud detection, as well as automated claims processing. We also fully virtualize the selling process for our agents, and we have like 600,000 agents across the region, so that our agents could talk to our potential customers via smartphones, because with COVID-19, people would not like to see people face to face. So truly, I believe machine learning and AI have made major impacts to all industries, large and small. One topic that is on everyone's mind recently is probably cybersecurity, especially with recent Colonial Pipeline ransomware cyber attack in US that has affected fuel prices and travel for so many people across America. I heard that they pay roughly $5 million US in ransom to the hackers. That's a lot of money. So my next question is, how important is cybersecurity and surveillance in your industry? And what are the technologies and approaches you are taking and use cases, if any? So let me start with Hazem. How is security for the government?
A big important issue, actually. I mean, if you talk about all these technologies going on, and not just AI, cybersecurity comes as a very important threat because everything is interconnected to each other. So even you're talking about IT or sensors, so they're always we're afraid of being hacked up by hackers or so yes, cybersecurity plays an important role. I think it's really important to make sure that we've got all these backups, and even AI is used now to predict any cyber attack. And we're currently working on something like that, is using artificial intelligence and machine learning to predict before an attack, to predict that there's a cybersecurity attack or cyber threat. In the government, we have taken it as an important issue. It's a side with some important professionals working on that because it's all the technologies are connected together, and I think cybersecurity plays an important role in the coming few years as well. It's a really great threat for all the machine learning and AI applications.
Thank you so much. Definitely. Cybersecurity is something that is constantly on our minds when there's so many hacking attacks ongoing every day. Next, may I invite Mohammed to share his views on his industry. How is security for him? Mohammed.
Yes. Cybersecurity is very important for manufacture, especially we have a lot of design and also a lot of industrial level of manufacture, and also we can connecting IoT and robotics also for machine learning. I get a lot of from surveillance scam. A lot of data must be calculated and keep it safe. Back to you.
Thank you. Yeah, you mentioned IoT and robotics, and particularly IoT. That's really interesting because there's just so many IoT these days, and they're just everywhere, particularly in manufacturing. Obviously to sense all the statuses and whatnot. How are you concerned with the IoT security compared with other devices? In general, IoT is not as secure. So how do you handle that?
However, artificial intelligence can process every frame and present real-time analysis to save a million of lives. The reason of AI making effect impact because it's self-learning capabilities.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Next, may I invite Wissam to share his view on how security is for his industry, also manufacturing.
Sure, Andy. Sure. Actually, what you've mentioned, having cybersecurity moving beyond the limits that we used to have in the old days, things have changed a lot because the size of data is becoming unbelievable. So I just remember New York Times just released a couple of years ago a new joint report from the FBI and the Homeland Security regarding cyber attacks on number of nuclear power plants, as well as in December 2015 in Ukraine, they have faced a massive power outage because of a cyber attack that left behind 230,000 citizens without an electricity. So now things have become different. Everything is changing in the new era of having everything available on clouds. You can access everything remotely. The more data is becoming huge and large, you need to have two things. You get benefit of these data by relying, for example, on AI to analyze it. The second part is protecting this data because it's precious. Data is now, they call it, it's the new oil. So it's worth a lot, okay? So as highlighted by the World Economic Forum, that they are expecting in 2025, the amount of data generated on a daily basis, it will reach almost 563 exabytes globally. Just to imagine this figure, you can just imagine all words ever spoken by human is only 5 exabytes. So it's unbelievable size of data. In GB Auto, we work, as I told you, in two industries, the automotive and financing, and we have almost 20,000 employees working in 5 countries, and the operation is going 24 by hours. 24 by 7, because of the shifts and the working shifts and the time difference. Even after COVID pandemic and the work new norms, many things have changed, as we have to rely more on cloud to provide more business agility. We have almost 7,500 employees are working from home and accessing all our systems remotely, either from their home or public Wi-Fi. And it's almost impossible to control the employees' working time. So you should expect having access to your system at any time of the day. This situation actually is very risky and uncontrolled. So it creates a high risk environment for the data itself. So we had to face it in a way with the highest possible technologies available in the market actually. So for example, we have implemented the high-end multi-layer firewall systems to protect our server farms. We have also equipped, these systems is equipped with AI technology to analyze the data traffic reaching our data farms to detect any risky behavior. On the other hand, we have equipped our endpoints with multi-layer protection system that's been updated remotely and on a daily basis. We also use sandboxing technology to protect emails and files. In addition, we are utilizing the MFA, the multi-factor authentication, for all systems or all critical systems that we are using for all our users. On the other hand, we are already having all the remote access is running over a private secured VPN in order to give access to our user, and currently studying to implement an advanced system that can predict attacks through strange behavior and uses bots to take an immediate action. So we don't need anymore to send alerts to an administrator who will just start to take action. You might lose everything in just seconds. So this is what we are considering for now. Regarding the surveillance system, as I told you before, we're already having almost 200 locations in Egypt, and it's all fully equipped with CCTVs or IP cameras that's already able to diagnose or to distinguish the facial or making a facial detection. So we are trying to implement or working on this the next year to having systems that can detect the intrusions or any unwanted action or attacks on our sites as well, besides using it for attendance, as I told you before.
Thank you so much, Wissam. It's a very interesting, amazing, all the suite of technologies that you have put into place. And I totally agree, with everything online, connected, on the cloud, a lot of data, and data is very important for AI machine learning, but the more data we use, the more we have to be concerned with their security. So, totally agree with your comment. Next, may I invite Joe? What is your view on the situation in cybersecurity and surveillance in your industry?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Andy. So we approach this in the Americas, in the US, as the government defines 16 sectors as critical infrastructure. And the concern of our nation is the interconnectivity of these sectors and subsectors. Currently, the top 3 major concerns are cyber, drone development, and activity that can actually help facilitate cyber attacks, and active shooter. So we, as in Axis, has done quite a bit in this process. As you know, we were the first innovators of IP technology. And as we expand those solutions from IP speakers, access control, sound intelligent, this opens other doors for potential hacking. So we have a network of partners that also provide really solid solutions to help this. I'm going to speak first about what we do from a manufacturer standpoint. As we see the biggest problem is a hack like we saw in Colonial Pipeline for ransomware that shuts down one area and then that propagates to another and another. And that shut down the whole distribution network of East Coast oil and gas, well, mainly gas. So what happened there is the gas stations closed. There became panic. People associated that with food. There were spikes in different industries. And then you see some of the collapsing, some of that domino effect that we are so concerned with. And you have to put stop measures in place to prevent that from happening. So from the cyber end of things, we are very diligent as a company and have been a leader in the industry to promote hardening of devices. We did this even really before some of the noted hackings that have happened in the last 5 or 6 years. So we have a pretty stringent hardening of device. We have a process of certificate control from manufacturing to installation. So we know if anybody comes in and introduces malware in that process, because we manufacture and we ship, and we have to have some way of monitoring that. These are some things we do from a manufacturer standpoint, and our partner set companies have come up with other innovations, such as in the critical infrastructure, and I'll give the example of the nuclear industry. They've accepted IP technology for most of the inner, what I call sub-perimeters. But out on the fence line where the most exposure could occur, they still have analog systems out there. Now that dynamic is changing from a comment one of you gentlemen made, the idea of being able to health monitor a device, to control a device that's out remotely saves a lot of money and time. So that dynamic shift is happening. So they have to figure out a way to additionally protect that from cyber hacking in situations out on the perimeter. So we have a partner called Enclave, and Enclave is a device that fits into your network, which actually masks any IP address. So when a hacker, if they're successful in getting in and looking for that IP address, it's completely masked to them. So what they can't see, they can't hack into is the theory there. So these are some of the concerns and the innovations we've implemented to address the rising critical cybersecurity element.
Thank you so much for that, Joe. It's interesting to hear that in the nuclear industry, some of their devices are still analog. So it's sort of a blessing, I guess, in disguise. So since it's not connected onto the internet, so that's very interesting. And we actually have another panel member who wasn't able to join earlier, Mr. Hazem Mohammed Ali. He's Chief Information Security Officer, from the Risk Division, Emirates, MBD, Egypt. Hazem, we were just talking about cybersecurity and surveillance in different industries, and I was wondering maybe you could share some of your view on how is cybersecurity surveillance in your banking industry, and what kind of technology approaches are you taking?
Thank you, Andy, and I apologize for joining late. I was engaged in another appointment. Well, I think cybersecurity is one of the most subjects that we need to take it into consideration now, since we are talking about the era of digital transformation, and all the industries now are taking digital initiatives into consideration with a severe investments. And in the financial sector, one of the critical industries in market, we should ensure that all the security maturity levels that are implemented in the past years are still adapted with all the changes that are happening now in the market and in the threat landscape in general. I think in the last year and during the pandemic, we faced a lot of challenges in terms of cybersecurity, and we also faced a massive increase in lots of attacks, including ransomware and including phishing attacks, for instance. So what we need to focus on it is how to make sure that with all these new technologies and all these new initiatives, we must ensure that all the security levels are kept at the same level. So if we are talking now about remote workers or working from home, so this is a new threat that we are facing now, how we can deal with it. Also, using all the new trending technologies like AI and blockchain and cloud technologies, all these new technologies that are in our landscape now, we should adapt with these technologies to apply the proper controls. Again, I think the most advice that we should put to all the organization to how putting the business strategy in cooperation with the security strategy. We cannot live in totally isolated islands anymore. We should be always hand in hand the security and business strategy, because if you are talking about that, we will expand the new technology in the next 3 or 5 years. So the IT security team should apply all the proper controls to ensure the seamless service and customer experience that we are all hoping to be served to our clients. But at the same time, this service must be at a security level and appropriate data privacy. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you so much, and totally agree. Any project development must go hand in hand with security. Should never be an afterthought. Okay, I'm mindful of time, so maybe my last question for the panel member is, what do you see as the future of AI machine learning in your particular industry? Where do you think is the most exciting thing that will be happening? And at the same time, what are the challenges that you face? Very quickly, let's start with Hazem.
Really broad question that needs hours of discussion, especially when you're talking about different sectors.
I'll give you 1 minute only.
Oh, you give 1 minute. Well, let me tell you that a lot of government sectors, lots of digital initiatives that's going on right now. We do face lots of problems from the digitized data that you have. We're still not complete. We're still it's all the governments around the world, and lots of organizations still work with paperwork. They don't have the digitized data, and that's a problem for AI and machine learning. And there's some sort of resistance. If you talk about AI and machine learning, it's part of digital transformation to use this kind of technology. So you actually face some sort of resistance from the employees and the government. But AI actually started, automated AI models started taking all this kind of routine jobs and administrative jobs. The main issue that we have is the bias from the data. The data quality is not as perfect as we think. The amount of data is not enough for certain use cases, not for all the use cases. But we do face some, people are not into technology yet, well, especially when we talk about really advanced technology like artificial intelligence. But by time, people get adopted to that. It just takes time to reach that plateau of stability, especially when you're talking about production level. Different sectors are started using digital initiatives. We have got the healthcare sector where we do diagnosis on patient records. You've got the transportation sector, traffic, you can predict the traffic jams and accidents. Even in education, you start doing this kind of personalized kind of education and different education for every student, for example. So there are different sectors. So we need more time to discuss all the sectors.
Thank you so much. But I really like what you said about data biases. That's so important. We didn't have a time to talk about that, but quality of data is super important. Yes, I mean, it's garbage in, garbage out, and machine learning and AI depends all on data. If it's not clean data.
There's some techniques like reinforcement learning. We've been trying to apply reinforcement learning as well, and that uses a less amount of data and you don't need that much data in.
Sure,
So
sure. Yeah.
that's another way of workarounds to use machine learning and AI.
Yeah, so true. Thank you. How about Mohammed? How about in your industry? What's the future for you? What's the future for?
Yes, I think market intelligence frame predict that by 2024, enterprises that are powered by artificial intelligence will be able to respond to customer and to competitor and regulator and partner by 50% than this are not using artificial intelligence. Thank you.
Super. Yes, definitely. AI adoption is going to be increasing exponentially in the coming years. So that's very good to hear. With Sam, how about you? What do you think is the future?
Actually, for me, AI is, let's agree on that. AI is not considered a new term. AI was first introduced in 1955. Okay, but what made it lag behind that AI requires three main ingredients to reach its potential. So first, the talent and resources necessary to construct innovation algorithms, huge amount of data and accurately to train those algorithms, and the right processing power to effectively handle that data. So based on that, I believe that we are now beginning to enter the golden age of AI technology. Frankly, I'm very optimistic about that. Okay, I believe that it's going to change the future. I see it exactly like the moment when electricity was discovered by Benjamin Franklin in 1752. I see it's shaping the whole world. If you look to the spectrum of the AI, we will understand its possible application. So you will find that AI starts from mimic human actions. So we found the RPA. Then it moves to augment quantitative human judgment, like being done in natural language processing and interpretation of human behavior or analyzing medical cases like you mentioned before. Okay, then it moves to a different layer, which is the augment human intelligence, which used in our case for the autonomous cars, for example. And the final stage is mimics human intelligence. And this is the most advanced one. And actually, for me, it's the most critical one. Okay, because at this stage, I believe that AI will be replacing all the function and jobs for human beings. But it's all about the time for it. Today, the ROI is not in favor of replacing everything using robots. But when robots become cheaper, it will be better to replace everything. So for me, the risk is we need from now to start a serious study to see how to fix the impact of replacing all workers' jobs by robots. People will face unfamiliar problems, either psychological, environmental, by having robots replacing humans. So I think we need to work in this starting from now before things just going out of our hands and robots will be starting to rule the world.
Thank you so much. I love what you said about the golden age of AI. I just love that. And then the impact of robots replacing humans. So, there's a lot of talk about maybe universal, basic income and things like that. So yes, definitely we should start thinking about, what would life be one day when, we have robots doing everything for us. Maybe it's going to be wonderful. Humans don't have to work anymore. Just enjoy life. I don't know.
So this panel will be running by robots one day.
Robots talking to robots. Yes. Joe, what do you think?
Yes,
Will robots
thanks, Andy.
take over your job?
Yeah, no, I mean, I actually know a gentleman with General Electric Robotics, which are working on solutions as we speak for that very thing. So I'm going to give you a dynamic here. The two main concerns in a processing plant and what they strive for in a global economy with competition is reduction of man hours and an unexpected shutdown. Both of these can hurt the bottom line of a company significantly. So they're looking at AI solutions to help prevent that. And I'm going to give you kind of a forward-looking idea of how I think AI will be implemented and how it'll be controlled and how it will affect these two areas I just mentioned. And I'll use the example again of a processing plant, a remote processing plant that have employees there, but don't necessarily have the ability to react quickly. And that's a problem from a reactability standpoint for preventive maintenance. So I see in the future companies developing smart devices to input and process, for instance, a smart valve that can be connected and that can be adjusted remotely. So if a SCADA indication goes off and says, hey, we have high pressure or low pressure in this area of this plant, we now have the ability to take sensors and verify that SCADA sensor. We have thermal cameras that can measure surface temperature to indicate if there's a rise or a drop in temperature. So there you have the visual verification. And what I envision at this time after verification, this data going to either a cloud or a hybrid cloud, and that's where the big picture takes over, where they can assess, get data points from other data points within that plant, and automatically send instructions back to adjust that valve maybe 2 degrees, 3 degrees. And if you look at the processes of plants like this, it is ripe for that technology. Young companies to develop these smart mechanical devices to be inputted. And that really starts us on the road of automation and what was talked about a little bit earlier. And I really see that rapid development as the enterprise companies get comfortable with that type of solution and that type of autonomous structure. And I see that happening in the marketplace now.
Thank you so much, Joe, for that. Definitely, things like digital twins and IoT devices, not only sensing, but also affecting their environment. That will be something that is going to be really interesting in the future. Okay, I think unfortunately our time is up. I'd like to sincerely thank all the panel members for your precious time and valuable sharing. Let me hand the floor back to Bhavana.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Andy. Firstly, what great moderation right there. Thank you, Wissam. Thank you, Hazem. Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you, Joe. And thank you, Sham, for joining us. What a great discussion this is turning out to be at the World AI Show. Thank you once again for your valuable time. Thank you, gentlemen. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.